Yes, hi everyone. My name is Midad Ali. I am a PhD student in University of Nottingham. So my presentation today about the development of a novel method for characterizing the regularity of meal pattern. In the introduction, obesity, which is part a nutritional problem, has been increasing worldwide. Excess weight can increase the risk of morbidity and mortality associated with cardiovascular diseases. Meal pattern may also play an important role in controlling body weight. Recently, the potential for an individual to have an irregular or chaotic eating pattern has increased due in part to greater availability of ready prepared meals, facilitating independence from established family meal times, a greater availability of fast food outside the home, and greater variation in work and shift patterns. So traditionally, an individual's meal pattern has been uh, characterized by calculating a mean value of food intake for several days. So in the literature, we found many intervention and observational studies which find the relationship between regularity of meal pattern and health outcomes. Irregular meal patterns have been considered as a possible new risk factor for obesity and its consequences, especially cardiovascular diseases and metabolic syndrome. Randomized crossover studies use a constant number of 6 meals in a regular meal pattern or varied numbers between 3 and 9 meals in an irregular meal pattern over a 14-day period. It was found that the regular eating seems to produce a degree of insulin resistance, higher lipid concentrations, and lower postprandial energy expenditure compared with the regular eating in lean women. These intervention studies would suggest that at population level, a more irregular meal pattern would have a deleterious effect on health. Studies by both 2014 and 2016 used the variance in energy intake per meal, which defined as breakfast, lunch, evening meal, and snacks between meals as an index to identify and calculate the irregularity of meal patterns. It has been indicated that an irregular intake of energy seems to increase the risk of metabolic syndromes. However, these studies do have some limitations in their method. Firstly, they assume a specific meal pattern, which include breakfast, lunch, and evening meal and between meals. Secondly, they collapse the meal slots for first thing, mid-morning tea, late evening, and extras into one meal slot, which is between meals. There are concerns about how regularity is characterized. Uh, there also seems to inconsistency in how meals or eating incidents are defined. Therefore, the aim of the present study was to characterize the regularity of meal pattern by using a novel method. So this research was conducted in 4 stages. First one, perform a systematic search of literature to identify previous methods for characterizing the regularity of meal pattern. Develop a novel method for characterizing meal pattern regularity. Then test the proposed method for characterizing meal pattern regularity. And finally, undertake an exploratory investigation of the relationship between meal pattern regularity and health outcomes. So in stage, in stage 2, 30 participants were chosen from the NDNS database. Participants were adults of 18 years and older. They were chosen on the basis that they had as many records of eating incidents as possible. The dimensions of meal pattern regularity, the time of eating, and the energy intake of each eating incident were extracted from the 4 days of dietary records. So as I mentioned, data for food intake and health parameters of included participants were obtained from National Diet and Nutritional Survey database. So in the result, no good method of characterizing meal pattern regularity was found. And the mean variance between days instead of the mean value of intake for several days was used to characterize the regularity of meal pattern. Subject with a low I-index value have a more regular meal pattern, while subject with a high I-index value have a less regular meal pattern. So the definition of an eating incident in this research was any situation in which the respondent recorded that food or drink had been consumed, including zero-calorie drinks. If two eating incidents occurred within 30 minutes of each other, both events were counted as a single eating incident. Therefore, beverages such as coffee and tea, in fact, anything except plain drinking water consumed in the absence of food would constitute an individual event. A series of stimulated four-day food intake records was created based on the recorded intake of 10 participants. Following figures show examples of some stimulated participants' meal patterns. So in this figure, we can see that this is an example of participants have a regular meal pattern shifted by the same energy with similar increase of time. So as I mentioned, the dimension of the regularity of meal pattern, which we used in this research, is the time of eating and the energy intake. So here another example of a regular meal pattern. This participant pattern shifted by same time with similar increase in energy. Here we can see in this picture a regular meal pattern which shifted by different time and different energy intake. So also here in this picture we can see hierarchical clustering show them the most regular and irregular meal patterns. So in the final stage, we investigate the relationship between regularity of meal pattern and obesity by using body mass index, lipids profile, HbA1c.
You have a minute to conclude, please.
Okay, so here we can see the difference in I-index based on gender, and here based on age. And here we find that a significant association with an increase in age, and here with body mass index, and here with the HbA1c. So in conclusion, regularity of meal pattern is correlated with an increase in age and low in body mass index and HbA1c. This novel method for characterizing the regularity of meal pattern promises a new approach to investigate the association between regularity of meal pattern, obesity, and cardiovascular diseases. And this is my reference. Thank you. Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you very much for your presentation. Do we have any questions for this presentation? I assume no question. Thank you, Medad Ali. Thank you.
Thank you.